in the book, you talk about parents advocating for segregated workshops.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to know, what you thought. If are these the same parents and families who are saying, well, we want our kids in a separate special education classroom?
They probably are. I should say I didn't look into. I should say I didn't look into that in my book. I probably should have, but I think that it's entirely a possibility. Like I think that it's important to remember that sheltered workshops were seen as the right thing to, or segregated work was seen as the right thing to do for a long time, because it's seen as these people could probably never hold a job before. But what we realize now is that we recognize that disabled people can hold a job and they can work full time, even, and we also recognize that everybody deserves a good and decent living wage, and I should note that a lot of people who are on the front lines about ending sub-minimum wage are Republicans. Kathy McMorris Rogers is a Republican congresswoman from, who's a Republican congressman who was in Republican leadership. Governor Greg Abbott in Texas. It's, I think, parents who think that, first off, they feel like, okay, well, there's a support system that comes around segregated workshops. They get driven to the place. They get supports there. They get a lot of accoutrement, and then it also provides respite for caregivers. But the fact of the matter is that those things could come with integrated work. We just never thought of them. We didn't think that was a possibility for integrated work, but that doesn't mean that they can't be done. And I think that's what matters, is that for the longest time, parents oftentimes, I think, are afraid of the unknown. And because the world can be cruel, a lot of people will probably think that I'm being unempathetic to parents in this book, but I understand why they're afraid. The world is cruel to a lot of disabled people, particularly autistic people. Otherwise, I wouldn't have written this book if I thought the world was nice to them. But you can't restrict people's freedoms or their ability to have their own dignity in the name of security. And that's what you're doing when you pay people below minimum wage, and what you do when you segregate them from other coworkers is you basically say they aren't entitled to work with other people, and they aren't entitled to earn the fruits of their labor. They aren't entitled, and they aren't entitled to a good job, because a lot of these jobs are very, very menial. I talked with Maxfield Sparrow, and they were, working on cutting felt for like those puzzle floor things. Like, it's very, very, and not to say that all work doesn't have dignity, but it's very much like it's assuming that disabled people can only do the lowest of the low labor, and they can't do anything more. So it's providing indignity, and it doesn't give them their due.